Hi, everyone. My name is Nina Pozderec, and I'm a psychologist and agile expert. And I also help teams or companies actually to transform from a hierarchical, traditional organization into a network of teams. And today my topic is about how we can make agile work, and of course how we can manage cognitive biases and social influences in order to boost collaboration and performance. So I'm very happy to be here. And of course, if you will have any questions during or afterwards, please let me know, connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'm happy to answer all the questions that you have. But I want to kick my presentation with a sentence that I'm sure that you have heard a lot of the times, and this is agile doesn't work. I know that this is a sentence that I hear quite a lot. And even though people think that because I'm an agile expert or a scrum master or a self-management expert also, that I will go into preaching mode. So, of course, agile work, you're doing it wrong or so. But I don't do that. So here, when I hear this kind of sentence, I go into exploration mode. So why do you think it does not work? Have you tried it? What have you tried it? And so on. So a lot of the times I see two patterns. Agile didn't work because of the environment or because of the team. And let's check the environment first. So I'm sure that you know what this is. This is a hierarchical organization. It's very clean, it's very neat, it's very pretty, but it's also 120 years old. So it was an organization that was meant for the Industrial Revolution. It was an invention in those times. It was invented by Gantt and Taylor, and it helped Henry Ford actually to optimize the manufacturing of cars. And it was made for those times. But since then, it has been over 100 years. And I don't know about you, but how many things that have been slightly modified from 100 years ago do you still use today? But we use hierarchy every day, even though times have changed rapidly. So when I'm talking about a slight modification, what do I mean? I mean about this. The agile team is still in a siloed organization. And then we go into exploring, okay, so what does that mean for the agile team, for the agile principles, for the values? Because you're still in a siloed organization, you're still in a hierarchy. You still have a problem that decision making is made at the top, but the most information or the best information about what customer wants, which is the most important thing today, have people in the bottom. So you have a gap between what customer wants and people who have information, and between people who make decisions. And what happens is that the decisions that are made on the information that are already filtered, if they even go through such a level of hierarchy. That means that a lot of decisions today are actually made on old information, because we all know that world is changing differently. And of course, we have the agile team. Mostly we're talking about the agile IT team. But what I see happening in an agile community and kind of worries me is that we are becoming silos, because we have agile HR, agile marketing, sales, and so on and so on. But we're still in a silos organization. Where's the cross functionality? Where's the customers? Are we still dealing with departmentalization? Because let's be honest, this kind of organization, yes, of course, agile doesn't work. You still have all of this. You still have bureaucracy, you still have centralized decision making. There's a lot of emphasis on authority and titles. There's vertical progression and not horizontal. You have endless meetings, drowning in emails. There's no leadership, mostly. You have a lot of micromanagement. And of course, you have disengaged employees because they have no autonomy, even though they have the best information about what customers want. So yes, agile does not work in that kind of environment, because you have a communication disconnect, you have slow decision making, there's lack of flexibility, there's lack of ownership, and of course, there's lack of trust in both ways. But I want to be clear about one thing, that this is a situational problem. It's not a people problem, because when I'm talking about people and I show them where the problem is, a lot of the times what I get back is, our people are not mature enough, they're not engaged enough, they don't want to take decisions, they just want to be told what it is. But it's not a people problem, it's a situational problem. And this is a sentence from one of my favorite books by the Heath brothers, and it's called Switch. So when I'm talking about why is it a situational problem, let me show you an example. And this is one of my favorite examples that I use. So let's say that we have a task, and this task is that I have to cross the road. And what I love about this example is that, of course, the majority of our viewers or of our participants, at least some of you who have a car and have to drive, we use this system quite a lot every day if you drive. And actually, we use this system and the next system. That's what I will show you. And this is from a book, Brave New Work from Aaron Dignan. So in case if you want to dig dive, please do. So, okay, let's go back. I have a task. I have to go safely across the road to get to the other side. And the first system that we have is, of course, the crossroad with all the lights and all the rules. And what happens here is that, I don't know, even if it's 3 a.m. in the morning, I'm alone, I see it that I could safely cross the road. I can't, because there's the authority or the centralized committee or, the red light that's actually stopping me from going through the road. Because of course, yes, I can go, but if I go, I can lose my license, I can have problems and so on. And this is the most unautonomous system that we have in the driving system. And the assumptions that it has about people is that people have to be controlled, that in order that we comply, because we are not capable of making decisions. We are not motivated enough to be safe around us. And so we need to be controlled and compliant. And what happens in those kind of systems right now, just check when you're going home today. A lot of people, when there's a red light, you know what they do? They take out their phones. They go through the social media. Or we could say they are very disengaged. And sometimes, somebody behind you have to tell you, come on, it's green light, let's go. But what's interesting to me is that the same people act very, very differently in a different system. Even though we have the same task, the task is still the same. We have to go safely across the road. But this system is a roundabout, and it has only 2 rules. You can go inside the roundabout when you decide it's safe. And of course, everybody has to go into the same direction according to the country where you live. So there's nobody in the centralized authority that says, stop and go where you can go. And here we are very autonomous. And we are very engaged, and we go into the roundabout without anyone telling us if it's safe. So this system is about trust and autonomy. And what does it says about numbers? So in roundabouts, we have 75 less accidents, we have 90% less traffic jams, and we have savings, 5 to 10K per year because of low maintenance, which says that, people can self-manage, people are motivated, people are responsible and accountable. And maybe if we go from this metaphor to the organizations, let's try to think how many times you have a crossroad in organization where you could have a roundabout. I'm not saying that you need all the roundabouts in the organization, that crossroads are bad or something. I'm just saying that let's find a balance where people can be autonomous, can make decisions. And of course, we can have crossroads where this is like a very, very major decision that has to go into a steering committee. But the reality is that a lot of decisions are not so major. A lot of decisions are not so critical, but it would change people's lives if they would have autonomy. But okay, so let's go. What does that mean in order from going from the crossroads to the roundabouts? What does that have with organization? Progressive organizations work in a different way. They make Agile happen because the system is different, but still, this is not enough. So when we have a progressive organization, and this is from Corporate Rebels, you go from profit to purpose and values, from hierarchy to network of teams, from the director leadership to supportive leadership, from planning and predicting into experimenting and adapting, from centralized authority into distributed and collaborative decision-making, from secrecy to radical transparency, and here we're talking even about the financial numbers, from job descriptions into talent and mastery, and from rules and control into freedom and trust. That means that we go from here, which is actually very neat and very controllable, but just on the paper, because we don't behave in that way. And this is not a reality because we have relationship with each other and they're very, very complicated. So from here, we go into customer centricity. We help organizations transform themselves from departmentalization to customer centrics. So in the circle, you see that we have different types of customers. Of course, it matters what kind of industry you work with. So you have customers, and of course the customer is also all the employees, and the customers is the company, because they still have to be profitable. Not all companies are NGOs. And around the customers, we organize cross-functional teams that are customer-facing teams, and then we have the supporting teams back. And of course, let's be honest, this is a transition that happens over a couple of years, probably. This is not something that we just go, oh, today we are a hierarchy and tomorrow we have a new organization. It does not happen like that. And like Gil said before, it's a lot about mindset, and develop a right mindset around it takes time. You can speed it up a bit with the system, but you cannot force people to change. You will not, there's a psychology of change around that a lot. So let's see, we go from titles into roles. And here we have one of the cross-functional teams. So one of the companies that we have been working with and are still working with is a marketing agency that went from a year where they started to work with us, and there's 25 of them, and they got a revenue about 1 million a year. And in a year that after a year of the reorganization or the transformation, they went to 4 million revenue a year without having more people to do the job. And this is the example of one of their teams. Because they're a marketing agency, they have 3 cross-functional teams, and they don't have departments anymore like they said they had before, design or a copy or anything else. And here we have one of the teams. For example, we have the digital team. And you can see that it has 12 different roles. So what's important for the customer-facing team is that they are autonomous, that they can make decisions in order to be fast. So there's nobody above them who can say, you can't do that or you can't do that. So, but in order to be autonomous, first we have to know what customer wants to make them happy. What kind of competencies or skills or roles in this example do we need in order to fulfill everything from A to Z, from end to end? And these are now the roles. But this team does not have 12 people. It has 5 people. That means that a couple of them have more roles. So at least 2 or 3 roles per person. But this is something that can help them that helps them with making agile work. So agile is not about Jira. It's not about Scrum. It's not about frameworks. It's about how you can be adaptable in order to make the customers happy, the employees happy, and of course the company profitable. And these are just a couple of examples that I have been working on for a couple of times. And we have tried this, and it's very well known in other industries, not just marketing agencies, also manufacturing and other industry, pharmacy, for example. So what happens here is that, okay, we have created an environment where Agile can help them be more collaborative and of course have better performance. But let's be honest, that just because you put people in a group, that does not make them a team. It makes them a group of individuals. So in order to make them a team, there's a couple of things that are very, very important in order that Agile works as a business rhythm. So the first one, of course, is team dynamics. You have to help the teams develop psychological safety. It goes through several stages, and even though when it's developed already, that does not mean that the work is done. So we have a lot of workshops with them, how you can align during the team, what are the dysfunctions, how the team is developed, what's happening. And even though this is not enough, we still have to talk. So I said psychological safety before, but we have to have transparency within the company. So if we want to have our team transparent, it's not enough to make them psychologically safe. We have to give them information so that they can be autonomous and they can make decisions. And a lot of our teams have the high level of transparency that, for example, they have their own profit and loss analysis for the team. And when I'm talking about transparency, I don't mean just that the company shares financial numbers, which is, of course, very important. It's important that the numbers that they are sharing are understandable. So people have to learn about it, how to read those kind of business plans, and to understand when they are profitable as a team or not. And if they're profitable as a team, they can decide if they want to hire extra help or if they want to split the profit between of them. So you have to design the system and to give them information in order to make them autonomous and in order to make them make good decisions. Then we have role-based leadership. So you saw before that you have different kind of roles. That means that sometimes I'm the leader because I'm perceived as the most competent in the group. And in some other cases, somebody else is. So what happens in a normal organization is, for example, if I'm a marketing director and I hire a very young person, so a Gen Z, and she knows TikTok, so why am I the one making decisions? Just because I'm the director? That does not make sense. I don't know nothing about TikTok, even though maybe I'm on it. But the fact is, in this type, she should be the leader about how we will manage our TikTok. I shouldn't be, even though if I have maybe the role of the director of marketing. And we help people learn about role-based leadership. What does that mean being a leader? What does it mean making decisions? And of course, we talk about feedback and conflict resolution, because a lot of the times what we see is that there is the culture of feedback is non-existent in a company. People don't want to give feedback. They don't want to receive feedback because why? It goes into conflict a lot of the times, and conflict is perceived as something bad. So when we come into a company and we talk about it, so how does everyone getting along? What's the culture? And so a lot of the times I hear, oh no, we are great. We don't have we are all friendly with each other. There is no conflict at all. Why is that a good thing? What that is? That's artificial harmony. That means that you will never be innovative, because in order to be creative and innovative, you have to have conflicts. So conflicts are a tool, but we have to learn how to resolve them and how to see them as a tool in a team in order to perceive great results and performance. And then, of course, there's the collaborative decision making. When I'm talking about collaborative decision making, a lot of people think about consensus. This is where we all agree on a certain decision. So consensus in a way of making decision is a process that is kind of slow, and decisions that are made in consensus are probably not the best decisions. So when we are talking about collaborative decision making, we are talking about two processes, and one of them is advice seeking and the other one is consent. And there's a difference between them, because why? Those two help us make individual decision. But of course, I have to seek advice from people who will maybe be affected by my decision. But the decision is still mine. I'm the one responsible. I'm the one accountable. And this is where organization can gain speed. So not through consensus, even though the common, the people think that we are talking about them. And then we have, of course, the business rhythm, where Agile is really important. Because why? Agile helps with the social pressure. So this is the business rhythm, the typical business rhythm that our companies have. So the teams have dailies, the classical dailies, and then we have the weekly, we have the operation and commitment meeting, where a team representative shares with all of other team representatives what they will have to do. Of course, they have plannings that are bi-weekly and retros, which are very, very important. And the people team is meeting bi-weekly also. And then on a monthly basis, we have the steering committee or strategy team. We have lessons learned, and we have Fuck Up Fridays where we learn from our mistakes. And the business rhythm is really, really important, because if how you design the organization or the system is like the brain, the business rhythm is the beating heart. And here is where Agile is really, really important. Why? Because in a team where you don't have a leader, where does the pressure come from? Actually, it comes from peers. And social pressure from peers is something that really, really motivates us in order to be good. Because I don't feel good if I come into a daily and I haven't done anything for a team and I see that all of other people are waiting for me. It's easier to disappoint a manager because we try to vilify our managers and we don't have a lot of contacts with our managers. You know, you maybe see him once a week or even once a month, but you see your teammates, your peers, every day. So they matter more. So the pressure to perform should come from there. And of course, don't forget the dynamics. And then, of course, I said that some companies have even that, for example, that some teams have their own P&Ls. That means that they're autonomous regarding money. Some even set their own salaries inside them. But it's a process. This does not happen overnight. And some companies don't ever progress into having the P&L of the team. Okay, so even though we have now the environment and we have the teams and we start working with the teams, we still see that a couple of things are happening. We have a lot of biases and, of course, a lot of influences. And this is very important when you try to help the team to form themselves. And we have to help people manage the bias that we have, because biases affect how we think about ideas, how we make decisions, how we collaborate, and of course, how we perform at the end. But the good news is that some biases are manageable in one way or another, and social influences also. So this is like a part that's very important where you start forming a group in order to help them progress faster through the phases and into becoming psychologically safe, or into becoming, the challenger safe or psychological safety, where they take risk without fearing that they will be socially excluded. But before we go how we can manage them, let's just check the biases. Don't worry, we won't go into all of those. I'm sure that this picture is very well familiar to them. I just wanted to show you how many biases we have, and we don't know that we have them. And this is really important because a lot of the times you can see that your team member has a bias, for example, a confirmation bias, but he or she does not see this. So how do we tell it? How do we help them go over those biases? So let's check a couple of those biases and let's see how we can manage them. So the first bias that we have, and it's very, very common, is the priming effect. This is the bias that 100% happens in every open meeting discussion. So this is the regular meeting, where you all come together and somebody says, okay, so we're here because we have a problem. It's this and this and this. Who has a solution? And the first person that speaks the solution out loud is making the priming effect on others. That means that it shrinks the creativity of searching your ideas. That means that because I already heard a solution from somebody else, I will start thinking about his solution. Is it manageable? Is it not? How I could adapt it? Is it good or is it not? I won't think about my own solutions. And for, solving problems or ideation or something like that, for creativity, it's very, very important that it's divergent as possible, because creativity, it does not come from good ideas, it comes from many ideas. So at the first part, when you are trying to be creative or problem solving, you have to get as many ideas as possible, good, bad, and the rest. So, and even bad ideas are okay, because a bad idea can spring a good idea in somebody else. So be aware that this is an effect that happens in every meeting where you are talking out loud. And of course, we have a hint how you can manage it differently. The next is, of course, the confirmation bias. This is like being in love into an idea. And confirmation bias is connected to the fact that we think that what we know is the truth, and we don't challenge what we know. And of course, for example, how is confirmation bias shown in a real world? For example, I'm a coffee lover. I love coffee. And I'm wondering about the effects of coffee on my body. And when I open Google, my question will be, how is coffee good for me? And you can see the confirmation bias inside. And of course, from Google, I will get the answer to my question. But my question is formed wrong. My question should be, what are the good and the bad effects of coffee? So in order to manage the confirmation bias, when you see that somebody is maybe struggling with that, try to help them with, okay, so let's search for, let's say that this is the hypothesis, that we are scientists and we are trying to prove it wrong. So let's just search for everything that we have, for the evidence that maybe we are thinking it in a wrong way. And the confirmation bias is very, you can see it in the conspiracy theories, because with the internet and everything, of course, it's very easily to confirm that what you believe is true in the internet era. But we need other people to help us manage the bias. Then we have the hippo effect and the halo effect. Halo effect is that because I like a person, I will like his idea more. And if I don't like a person, or I hate the person, I don't like his idea. It doesn't matter how good it is, because we don't know how to make idea from out of the owner. So idea is based on the owner and not on the idea itself. And the hippo effect is the highest paid person in the office. So if you have a boss in a room, or a leader in a room, or the highest paid person, his opinion matters most. Because why? We all agree with him because he has our salary, he has our career in his hands, and of course we want to agree with him. So if we have somebody in the audience who's a leader, be sure that you speak last, and be sure, if you do tell your opinion, that you set the expectation that that this is your opinion, and that you expect to hear other opinions that are different from your own. And luckily, this is also something that we can manage. And of course, there is analysis paralysis. So a lot of the meetings that you are having is because you cannot decide, because you have, I don't know, too many choices or too many data to stream on. And what can help you here is, for example, to limit the options, to make it, well, okay, what kind of ideas are feasible, but just be aware that a lot of the times where we are in an analysis paralysis, we go then into sticking into one idea and deciding whether or not we will implement it. So the decision is a yes or no decision, which is not the best type of making decisions. The best type of making decisions is between 2 or 3 alternatives that are very well researched. And of course, then we have an equal contribution. I'm sure that you are aware, when you have a meeting where everybody is talking, you have 2 people who are very talkative or extroverted, you can say, and you have maybe 2 people who will say a word from time to time, and one who will be silent for the whole meeting. And the problem with unequal contribution is the Babel effect, because we think that people who talk the most are the most competent, and research shows that a lot of managers are in this Babel effect. So we have to manage it in order to make the contribution equal. So maybe not talking from the beginning, or using liberating structures in order to create the environment where even people who aren't willing to express their opinion out loud can share their ideas. And of course, then we have the conforming and the social standards. So I'm very sure that you're familiar with the Salomon Asch experiment on the lines, for people who are maybe not familiar with it. So there was a lot of experiments around it, but here was a test group where they had, for example, one test subject, a student, and 9 actors. And they told the actors to get the wrong, to tell the wrong answer. So the question was, okay, when you look at the target line, is it the same as A, B, or C? Is the same as line A, B, or C? And the actors were told to say B, even though it's not true. And a lot of the times people conformed and said B, even though it's very obvious it's not true. And they didn't even know people in the group, and they will not see them anywhere else. So imagine how conforming we can be in a group where we work every day. But here's one important lesson. When they said to one of the actors, just say anything different than a B, so 8 said B, 1 said A, the conforming dropped down to 40%. And how you can manage conforming? Maybe have a devil's advocate role in every meeting. Okay. So let's just go quickly through the biases and how we can manage them. For the priming effect, use together alone or note and votes. So please use sticky notes, or if you're working remotely and online, use Miro. And when somebody is presenting a problem or an idea or something, yes, you go through clarifying questions. And then for writing, and then you go to brain writing, so not brainstorming, but brain writing, and just write all the ideas that you have, and then see which ideas are the better. So when you are writing things and the together alone, you are also managing the hippo effect and the halo effect. You're helping with psychological safety, and you're helping with the confirmation bias and conformity that you have. So this is like one trick that can help you a lot. When you have the halo effect, it's very important that you try to separate the idea from the owner. And this is something that's very important also in the hippo effect. So what works the best for me is, again, the online collaboration tools where everybody can be anonymous. So Miro, for example, has the private mode now, which is awesome. And in those cases, idea is really judged only on the quality of the idea itself. And a lot of the times what we see is that the best ideas don't come from managers or from people who talk a lot. They come from people who are very, I don't know, introverted. So try to manage the biases. When we go into the confirmation bias, if you see it by yourself, or maybe just in order to challenge yourself, say, okay, so this is a hypothesis. What if I'm wrong? In order to be more realistic. And even this is something that we try in a group. What are some things that we think are true and that we can challenge them and search signals that maybe we are wrong? And for the conformity, like I said before, there's a role for devil's advocate. What's important is that role is the rotating one, so that it does not get attached to somebody. And his only role is to be opposed to everything that is proposed. And of course, not just being opposed, but actually seeking for objective reasons why to be opposed in order for conformity to drop down. And when we're talking about an equal contribution, try to have a workshop from time to time, and not a workshop where people talk, but a workshop where people write, where they have stickies, where they have concepts, where every vote they have is equal, and see if the magic happens. So thank you very much. That's all from my side. If you have any more questions or so, I'm happy to answer. But in order to end my presentation, this is a quote that's very dear to me, and I think that the reality is it's very real in our time. It's not the strongest of the species that survives. It's not the most intelligence. It's the one that's the most adaptable to change. And one question that I have for you is, how adaptive is your organization? How quickly can you adapt to the new circumstances, disregarding if they're outside or outside? Because this is something that makes a company resilient, not what's in the paper. So thank you very much.